Now we have Martin, also known as Leyrer. He'll be talking about modern command line tools version 1.4. Thank you.
You're clapping now. Let's see how this ends. Thank you very much. Good morning. I'm surprised to see so many people in this room. Thank you very much for showing up. I hope I will make it worth your time. Just to make sure, are you in the right room? This is modern command line tools, and my clicker just, yeah. The next talks will be towards a perfect cryptocurrency wallet in Tesla in about 14 minutes. And also in the hackerspace area, there will be the Things Network Novi Sad. I would go there, because that's a lot more interesting than the old Leyrer. This is modern command line tools. This is version 1.4, so there's new content compared to the German talks I gave earlier this year. This is the first time I'm giving this talk in English, so I hope I have eradicated all German words. If not, please do not hang me for that. I will fix the slides later on. If you want to Twitter or Mastodon or whatever about it, the hashtag would be BalCCC2k18. My name is Leyrer or Martin or Hey You or whatever. If you have a question, please interrupt me. But before you ask your question, please wait for the microphone so we get the question for the recording as well. Speaking of recordings, just to make it clear, I'm happy for you to tweet, take pictures, do whatever with the content. The slides will be available. All the links will be available on the Balkan website as well as on my homepage. The address for my homepage will be at the end of the slides. Oh, he's pinging around for the room. Awesome, thank you. No, it's fine, no worries. So, let's start with the why. Why in the world do I want to talk about modern command line tools and what are modern command line tools, and what did I think about when I did this talk? Well, the thing is, I'm an old guy. I'm used to do things in a special way, in a certain way, and Douglas Adams actually postulated 3 axioms that very nicely describe the problem I'm facing currently. So Douglas Adams, the author of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, actually said that anything in this world when you are born is normal and ordinary and is just natural part of the way the world works, right? So for a lot of you, as I see, the internet is just there. It was always there since you can think. Anything that is invented between when you're 15 and 35 is new and exciting and revolutionary, and you can probably get a career in it. So for me, that was IT and internet and all that thing. But, and that's the catch, anything invented after you're 35 is against the natural order of things. And so, as you can probably guess, I'm a little bit older than 35, so things like Docker or Kubernetes and all that weird stuff, it's basically, I don't like that. So, but I also don't like to be in a rut to do everything the same way all over again. So I sat down and said, okay, how can I actually improve the way I work on the command line? Are there any new tools I haven't seen, I haven't thought about, I haven't dreamed about that are actually there and could improve my work or my time on the computer? So also this talk is not intended to force you to use all the tools I'm showing you. It's just to give you an idea of what's out there. Maybe you find a tool or two that you incorporate in your daily work. But if you don't, that's fine. If you have a tool I haven't covered, please let me know during Q&A, maybe. But if you find something that is of interest to you, I'm very happy and glad, and I'm also very happy on feedback, either positive or negative, through Twitter, or if you buy me a drink afterwards or whatever. So the plan for this is short history on command line tools, and then we will dig into systemd and dig and TracePath and IP route and all the other stuff. And it's not only slideware, I also have quite a few demos for you prepared. Let's see how this works. It worked in the morning, so let's see. So you probably have seen this before. Basically all the command line tools we use in everyday work inherited from the Unix tree of operating systems. So from the old system 1 to 4, system 5, the stuff that ran on a PDP-11, PDP-10, and Solaris and whatever. So this is where our command lines come from. And for example, the grep command you all use, exists since 1973. Yeah, so I'm a little bit older than that, but just a little bit. And the nice thing about the Unix philosophy is that the commands are as simple as possible and that you can chain them together, but I will get into that in a little bit more detail. So this is Unix, and we all know Unix. Yeah? We all know how to use this. And if you haven't seen that movie, do watch it. It's hilarious. So the Unix philosophy, it was originally coined by McIlroy in '78, and Doug McIlroy basically invented Unix pipelines, spell, diff, sort, join, trough, and a few other tools you probably have seen before. And he postulated the Unix philosophy that basically says, make each program do one thing and one thing only well, and build it afresh instead of adding new features. Sounds familiar? Also expect the output of every program to become the input of another, so you can chain programs together. Don't clutter the output. Keep the output clear and simple and text-based. No binary input or output formats. Don't insist on interactive input. Design and build software to be tried early and often, and also don't be afraid to throw it away and rebuild it. And lastly, use tools in preference to unskilled help. So write code instead of just doing manual labor, even if it's just a simple task. Peter Sellers in 1994 rephrased that to write programs that do one thing and do it well, write programs that work together, and write programs to handle text streams because it's a universal interface, which is awesome, which basically gave us the tools we're using since the 70s. But simple does not mean not complex. So with a lot of simple tools, you can do a lot of complex tasks, actually can do a lot of interesting work. Keep these Unix philosophy things in mind. We will come to them a little bit later on. So where do all these simple programs actually come from? Well, there is the single Unix specification that all the operating systems that want to use Unix in the name have to adhere to. So that are the usual suspects like AIX and Mac OS and Solaris and all the others. But very few operating systems actually do go through the complete certification for this. But usually they do. One part of that specification, also the POSIX standard, which I will cover in a second. So part of that specification of the single Unix specification is the IEEE standard 1003.1/2008, which basically lists 161 commands that have to be there if you want to call your operating system Unix. So there is actually a lot of stuff you can do a talk about next year if you want to. So take any of these and do a talk. There is also POSIX, or PHASIX as it should be called, but I'm still calling it POSIX. And it's the Portable Operating System Interface. It's specified by the IEEE, the Institute for Electrical and Electronics Engineers. And that standard emerged from a project that began in about 1985, coined by Richard Stallman, which I think a few of you know, at least by name. The interesting stuff with POSIX is that you have to just comply to any of those three lines, so either the API, the command line shell, or the utility interfaces to call yourself POSIX compatible. That's why, for example, Windows NT 4.0 was POSIX compatible because it supplied the API but no commands. Well, of course, there's also the Linux standard base, based on the single Unix specification and based on POSIX. doing the same thing for Linux, and the Linux standard space, of course, also defines a lot of commands and utilities. Again, there's a lot of stuff you can do a talk about next year, so I don't have to do one. Then, of course, there is the util Linux standard package that's distributed by the Linux kernel organization. That also supplies a lot of commands I'm not going to talk about today. And of course, if you're using a GNU-based system, the GNU core utilities that have to be in every operating system that call itself GNU. So I'm also not going to talk about those tools. I'm also not going to talk about tools that need a server running on your system. Because I think that's just strange. And, what do I mean by this? I mean by this Java-based search engine where you write a Ruby client with a command line that is like 120 characters to get the man pages for a command. And for that, you have to run a Java-based server on your laptop. There are easier ways to do that. There's either man-k, or there's apropos to actually do the same thing without Java, without a server, and without writing 120 character command lines. So what I'm talking about, for example, on systemd. Systemd replaced the Unix system 5 init scripts, or tries to, or already did for most of the operating systems we are handling with Linux. Used to create fun issues with tmux and a few other tools, and basically broke a lot of stuff. I'm not a fan of systemd, but we have to live with it. So a little helper here, old and tired is etc init tool start. Now we have to use system control, start tool, stop tool, restart tool, or status tool, which is okay. So let's compare, for example, how do you get the status out of Apache? In the old days, we used Apache 2 status and got back Apache 2's running. With systemd, of course, which adheres to the whole Unix command line philosophy, etc., has a concise, easy to read, easy to parse output that is restricted to the essential info. Have you found the line where it says if Apache is running or not yet? So, yeah. But of course, there are also a few upsides of systemd. Systemd also tries to be the central logging engine for your system, and it stores those logs in a binary format. Again, we remember the system philosophy, everything is text, but with kernel control, which is the log management tool for systemd, there are actually benefits to using a binary format, because then you can do the output of the log. You can do a local output of times. You can do time zones with the log files and do other stuff. So it's not all bad. Try to get a handle of it. Take a look at it. Question to the audience. How do you know that a Windows administrator is working on a Linux box? He's looking for the GUI. That's one option, yes. Actually, usually if it do not work, he's still using NSLOOKUP. So if you grab for your shell history and find NSLOOKUP, you know that the passwords are too easy and you have to change them because the Windows administrator guessed them. So the new tool to use would be dig. It does NSLOOKUPs. It basically does anything that DNS lookups. It does everything that NSLOOKUP does, but I think in a more interesting or nice way. So if you do dig, this is, of course, again, Unix philosophy, easy to parse output, stripped down to the bare necessities and no extra information. Let's dig into this. So if you do a dig on the Balkan URL hostname, you get some basic information. Oh yes, I just ran dig. Thank you very much for that information. And I ran dig on this hostname. I got an answer. Awesome. I get a few informations I got one answer, which is awesome. I did one query. Okay, thank you very much. Oh, you're repeating the question again. This is awesome. Thank you very much, dear dig. And I get my answer. Yes, finally. And of course, this took 48 milliseconds. I did it on my local machine and did it just a few seconds ago. Awesome. So again, this is not really what we want from a Unix tool. Fortunately, there's an option called +short, which will give us the answer that we were actually looking for. And fortunately for you, You can set this option in a config file in /etc, so you don't have to specify it every time. And then dig is actually a very, very useful and very, very simple to use tool once you configured it properly. So let's compare NSLOOKUP, of course, again against the Balkan hostname, web server hostname, with dig. The same, of course, goes for an MX for the mail exchanger. With NSLOOKUP, you did -q equals MX. With dig, you just add the MX at the end and get the answer as well. So again, this is just a simple thing. If you're still using NSLOOKUP, try to train yourself to use dig. That's the way the cool kids do it in 2018 and 19. Another nice tool that's actually rather old is TracePath. It's a user-space version of traceroute or traceroute. Pick your pronunciation. The nice thing about TracePath is it can calculate the path MTU. So if you ping a certain host, you get the maximum transmission unit you can use on that path, especially in a local network. That's quite nice because you can then optimize your network package sizes. So let me try to show you this. So you got your interface, I got mine, and let's take a look at, no, that's not what I wanted to show you. Okay, I don't have a trace path for, yeah, I don't have a demo for that, but I have a screenshot of that. So you basically do a trace path on a certain host, and on the right-hand side, top line, you see the path MTU of 1,500, so you can optimize this, which is nice. What I actually wanted to demo is MTR, or my traceroute. It combines ping and traceroute. It does a continuous ping, so it continuously updates itself. It has, apart from the command line option, it also has ncurses and GTK interfaces, and it's actually nice. So let's try again. If I'm doing the right thing, so this is now my traceroute. And as you can see for each hop, you can see the latency, how long it takes, if there are any outtakes or whatever, and you can switch the displays, so you can see packet loss, average time, the last ping time, best ping time, worst ping time, and the standard deviation for the ping times, which is nice, so you can actually do get all these numbers without doing the math in your head or on the command line. So MTR, my traceroute, very nice tool. So let's go back. Yes, please. We do have a question. Wait a second. Don't throw it. If I switch from demos to presentation, it's a good time to ask questions because it gives me time to switch all the windows I need. Thank you. Yes?
Quick question. Can you get the PMTU feature into MTR as well?
No, just ping.
It's not built in?
No, unfortunately, no. What it does do is you can do a report, so it does it 10 times and gives you everything in a nice ASCII format you can then actually pass.
There's an XSLT for it.
Yeah. We will get to XLST. We will get to that. Then there is OPing. If you haven't heard of that, it pings towards multiple hosts, which is also nice. It does nice graphics for a command line, and also provides an ncurses front end. And again, let's see if I can switch. I'm getting the hang of it. So this is no ping, and I'm pinging several hosts. And as you can see, the one from Hetty's hacking club actually does not reply on pings. So I get exclamation marks, and the others just show me. And you can see the little bumps are actually longer ping times, and gives you a nice view on this. So, last, I always have a backup screenshot in case the demo doesn't work. Last topic in regards to network is if you haven't switched over to IP route 2, or in short IP, do consider that. IP basically replaces ifconfig, route, and all the other tools. on each network layer you need. So to give you a quick impression, instead of ifconfig, you do an IP address show or an IP link show if you need the MAC address, which basically, again, the new tools have this issue with noisy output, but it's possible. IP link show. Instead of ifconfig ETH 0 up, you do IP link set ETH up. I'm using here the very verbose command lines. You can usually shorten them quite down a bit. The nice thing about IP is that the structure, the syntax is always the same. So it's always IP and the commands and the attributes at the end. Just to step quickly through it, how to set an IP address, how to delete the IP address, which is with IP actually a lot easier than with the old tools. The same goes for ARP entries, and for the route or root, instead of route, it's IP route show. Yes, it's a little bit longer, but actually, once you get used to it, it's actually quite nice to use. If you want to know more about this, there's a an excellent talk by Barbosa called Contemporary Linux Networking. I can wholeheartedly recommend it. If you speak German, Barbosa also did a networking introductory course at FrostCon that got recorded. So if you understand German, do watch that and learn more about networks. It's awesome with the new tools what you can actually do. So leaving networks behind, let's switch to the more fun part. Tmux. Tmux is a terminal multiplexer. I can give a whole talk on that alone. It allows you to work collaboratively in a shared session or shell, so either on the same computer or even through SSH. McLemmon and I use this if we present from two different computers to type into the same shell you see on the screen. I use it to have one shell on my desktop and another shell for the beamer, so I can watch what I'm typing on my screen and don't have to turn my head around towards the screen, so it's really awesome. Maybe I'll do a lightning talk on that later on. It's actually, it's actively developed. This was a selling point a few months ago, but development for screen, which is the older version of that tool, picked up again as well. And I think it's just more modern. It feels more modern and has more functionality. So actually, I already use Tmux to switch between the different tools. So if you look at the top of the screen, I have different windows. So this is now the third window for Tmux. Within that window, I have several panes that show different output from different applications. I have, for example, HTOP, and if I want to see more on HTOP, I can, if I press the right buttons, zoom into that and then zoom out again and have my applications again. At the bottom, I have my system outlook. The nice thing about Tmux is you can actually script everything in Tmux. So to set up this whole Tmux environment with all the windows and all the commands prepared and all the commands running, I have a short bash script that sets me up exactly the whole thing like this. Takes me just a few seconds to set up the whole environment for a presentation. So if you're still using screen, or if you haven't thought about using a terminal multiplexer before, and you're still working with several terminals on your graphical user interface, take a look at Tmux. It usually helps quite a lot with shutting down the number of windows you have on your screen, which is always a good thing because it confuses me. The other thing you have probably seen in the demo as well is the Satchel I'm using. It's an interactive login shell as well as a command line interpreter for shell scripts. It's an extended Bourne shell, and it's very, very, very extendable. I'm a big fan of Satchel, but I don't have time to tinker around with it too much. So what I'm using is Satchel, which is basically a shell script that supplies themes. So you can theme this thing. You can theme the hell out of it, make it look whatever you want it to have. There are a lot of plugins. This thing gets regularly updated. Do check it out. Actually, let's do check it out. If I switch over to window 4, which has my Satchel, let's show you a few things that Satchel can do. As you can see, I have already themed this thing, so I have a few colors going on. I have a 2-line command line, and I have quite a few extra things in there I will show you in a second. So if you're doing a less on a folder, what you can do is double tap on the double click on the tab button, whatever. Use tab twice, and then you can actually use the cursor keys to navigate around all the directories that are actually within that directory. Select one and be done with it. The other nice thing is that you can skip 3 characters. So if you're one of those people that actually do shell golf, so how can I achieve a certain result with the minimum number of keystrokes? Changing into a directory does no longer need a CD blank, so you can shave off 3 characters of all your typing. You just type in the directory name and go there. In the command line, you see there is, I can do, for example, false. Then I get a red X, so the last command threw an error, clean that up again, and that's fine. Also, you can see there is something called master. So this directory is under Git control. So I can actually, if I add a directory to it and do a git add Balkan, it shows me, oh, there's this directory is tainted. You just added a thing. So it shows you the current Git status, and you always know where you are. If you're not in the master branch, it will show you the name of the branch you're currently in and all that stuff. So this is already a Satchel plugin from Oh My Satchel that does all that stuff. So let's just stash that away, and I'm good. I should be good again. Also, you see the system component of my prompt, which actually shows me my Python environment. So I currently have the system environment installed. I can switch to the Python local, and it now shows me I'm now using Python 3.7.0, and of course I can switch back to Python nth, and it will show me, okay, you're using the system installed Python again. This also works not only with Python, but with all the other scripts. There are a lot of, as I said before, a lot of themes. So this is a list of Oh My Satchel themes from the beginning of this year. Either you're doing Git or Mercurial or whatever, there is a plugin for you there that you can use, and do try it out. Takes an hour or two to the most time you will spend on finding the right theme and picking the plugins you need. I go for more than less. Let's do one more plugin and see how this, and throw it out if it doesn't help you anymore. A few tools I will just skip through for time. Who knows what Miller columns are? Anyone? Miller columns? Who has worked on a next step machine? Mac OS? A few? If you're using the Mac OS Finder, which is basically based on the software that was written for the next step operating system, the view where you have several columns of files and directories is called Miller columns. So Ranger, I'm sorry for the bad screenshot, I don't have it installed on this machine, is actually the same thing as the Mac Finder. It shows you the files in different columns, and if you're on the directories in different columns, and if you're on a file, it will show you a file preview or the file metadata or whatever. I'm a really big fan of Miller columns. Once you get the hang of it, it's a lot faster than the regular Nautilus or whatever Norton Commander-based file manager you're using. Do give it a try. It's awesome. I really love it. I just don't have it on this machine, unfortunately, for whatever reason. Then there's HTTP-PY, which is basically a wrapper around curl. It does auto-formatting, it does colors. If there are any Americans in the room, yes, I'm using the British spelling for this. And it's very easy to use. So, for example, if you fetch the Balkan homepage, you do an HTTP and the URL, and you get a nice, colorful output of the HTML and the server headers that get sent back to you. But HTTP-PY does more. It also formats, for example, JSON very nicely. So if you're one of those hipsters, full stack, front end, whatever, DevSecOps developers who work a lot with JSON, this will probably help you. While I'm ranting on JSON, of course, there's JQ, which is set for JSON. It displays and modifies JSON data, and if you have to work with that, it's actually a very, very handy tool, similar to set and awk and grep for those that are still working with regular ASCII files. So, for example, you can do a curl, get the Balkan schedule in JSON format, and then use JQ to grab all the titles of all the talks. And on the command line, it looks like this. If you know more about JSON, you can actually transform this, summarize the data, and work with that data. Usually, I work in the enterprise environment, so I'm not used to JSON. I still have to work with XML. So we have XML starlet, which is a set for XML. It's basically the same thing. It does XPath and XLST from the command line. Again, same example. Take curl, get the Balkan schedule for XML, and let's look for the really important stuff, which is the Rakia workshop. So when is the Rakia workshop? It is today. Whee! Oh, sorry, it's Rakia Leaks this year. So I hope I pronounce it okay-ish. Another tool I'm using on a regular basis is Area 2, which is a download utility. It allows you to download large files in several chunks at the same time, which greatly improves the speed of the download. It has support for multiple protocols like HTTP, HTTPS, FTP, SFTP, BitTorrent, and Metaling. And usage is quite simple. Continue download after abort, which is nice. Do 2 parallel downloads at the same time and do 10 connections to one server. So the download gets chunked up into 10 parts, and those 10 parts get downloaded at the same time from that one server. If you have a download that is available on several servers, you can then even parallelize that download from several servers to even more increase the decrease the download time. So it's a very, very handy, very, very powerful tool. I can very heartily recommend it. ICDiff supplements diff, which does the difference between 2 files. It's small, it's simple, and it's for the casual diff user, because instead of the diff output on the left-hand side, it does a nice, colorful, more readable output for the casual diff user. If you're a hardcore diff user, you probably want color diff, which is a wraparound diff, and does diff with more colors, but keeps the old syntax, which looks something like this, which is absolutely not legible on this screen. I'm very sorry for that. Of course, I already mentioned grep. Of course, there are better alternatives. One of them, I would really stress that one of them is ripgrep, which is a recursive regex grep. It respects git ignore files. It's very fast. So according to their website, if you have Unicode files, and it's 2018, so you probably do have Unicode files, it's a lot faster than the regular grep, which apparently has a performance issue once you switch from ASCII to something with umlauts or accents or whatever. So to everything that the Americans haven't thought about. Of course, and you have here the comparison with Silver Searcher and Platinum Searcher. So ripgrep is not the only option out there. If you're doing a lot of grep, if you're doing a lot of searching in text files, especially in large text files, it's probably a good idea to figure out which tool fits your needs the best. There are a lot of that. There's a lot of work going on in that area, and you do want to do that. Take a look at it. Mate backups, always very important. So, FD. FD is a syntax simplification for find. Instead of find minus iname pattern, you just do an FD pattern, and you will you can use that to find files within your directories. It uses smart case, this Unicode aware, it's parallelizable, and of course it's very colorful. You see a pattern here. A lot of these tools now support color. So you just do FD and do your work and get the results back in a nice, colorful and user-friendly way. I'm not sold on FD yet personally. I still have to find syntax in my finger macros, but it's a nice tool for the casual find user. Again, nice tool. Set to jump around. It's basically an AI for file paths because you have to AI in each talk. I don't have blockchain, so I had to use AI. It has to be trained, and it basically matches a given path via regex to the most used directories. What does that mean? So for example, set foo, CDs into the most frequent used directory matching foo. Set foo bar, CDs into the most frequent directory used matching foo, and then uses the most frequent, within that, the most frequent used directory called bar and changes into that. Basically, it's witchcraft. Yeah, I like the idea, but it does not. I had in other talks people actually swearing on that and saying this is the best tool ever. I just throw it at you. Take a look at it, try it out. If you're happy with it, awesome. I can't get my head around it. Then there is EXA, which is a replacement or extension for. I'm almost on time. Extension or replacement for LS. It's, again, colorful. You see the pattern here. It's recursive. It supports Git as well. And it gives you nice directory trees. So to wake you up again, let's see. I should have something here. So if you do an EXA on a directory, it does a nice directory tree you can then further search on. So if you're into that stuff, that's the tool you want to use. What I actually want to spend a little bit time on is FZF, which is a command line fuzzy finder. It's, okay, what is a command line fuzzy finder? I mean, this is something fuzzy. I mean, we all know the fuzz that grows on your keyboard if you drop too much food on it and gets all green and strange. But actually, this is a very, very, very quick, very handy tool. It has support for Vim. It has support for Tmux. I think it also has support for Emacs. I'm still missing the third hand to use Emacs properly, so I'm a Vim guy. But let me show you. FZF is one of those tools you can't show with slides. You have to show in a live demo. So here, let's put this up here. Here I have FZF with the preview option, and with the preview option, you tell FZF what to do with each file. In this case, show me the first 100 lines of each file. So if I start this, FZF recursively searches the directory, lists me all the files and directories, and for each file, shows me the first 100 lines. I can move around with the cursor, and you can see the red dash that indicates where I am at the moment. And if I press return, it gives me the file name to work with again. This is one of the nice features. But FZF also integrates into your command line. So you can, for example, do a Control-T, which basically pastes the selected file and directories on the command line. So I can, again, scroll around, but I can also just search by typing. And that's the fuzzy finding. So I can search, for example, for .h, $, show me all the files that end in .h, or show me all files containing SHA-2 in that case. SHA-2, if I type correctly. And then it boils down the result to just the file name I'm using. The same, so I get the file back and I can now do a less, for example. Yeah, great. The same goes for change directory, so I can do an Alt-C. Then I get all the directories and can do a sound ARM and get all the directories that contain ARM in the name and automatically CD into that directory. FZF also integrates into the shell history, so I can do a Control-R and I get my shell history and can now search, for example, for .mp3 and get all the commands lines in my history that had mp3 in there. But it not only integrates into the command line, it also integrates into other commands. For example, I can do a kill, do a tap, oops, with focus on the right window, and now I get a list of all the running processes in the system. I can search for them, so I can, for example, search for LibreOffice. Get the process name. There's my staroffice.bin. Press return, and I automatically get the process ID back, which is awesome for me because I can't. Otherwise, I would do a ps aux.w grep whatever with FZF and kill. It's just tap and type, which is really, really nice. The other thing you can do is if I go to my work directory again, no CD. What I can also do is with FZF use the multi option, which allows me to select multiple files and write them, for example, into a file. So if I do this, I'm actually now using FZF Tmux, which also, as FZF also integrates into Tmux, we talked about this before. This now opens a second pane in my current Tmux window, allows me to select several files. You see, just with tab, I have now several selectors. And if I press return, it closes that Tmux pane again. I have my first pane, my first window in Tmux again. And again, another nice Satchel feature is mistyped commands are read, and once I correct it, it gets recolored, and I now have several files selected. So FZF is a really, 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 really nice tool, and with, again, FZF Tmux, just to show you once more, I now have the pane, the Tmux pane at the bottom, again, select the file, and be done with it. So that's FZF. I can't work without it anymore. It's awesome. Do give it a try. Last one, Progress, the core utils Progress viewer. We all know if you do a DD, for example, you have to pipe it through PV to actually get a progress bar. Yes, I know the new versions of DD now have a progress option. Yes, yes, yes. But I'm an old guy, so we had to manage with this. We had nothing back in the days, you know. No, I'm not going to start this now. So what you again could do, there it is, last demo, I swear. Again, I have my Tmux setup on the right pane of Tmux. I have progress -m, which basically says, okay, I'm running and I'm listening. If there are any CP, MV, DD, tar, basically any system program that does system calls that copy files around. And I wait for that if something happens. And on the other pane, I have a copy job that takes a few seconds, hopefully. So if I do a copy now, it will now show me in the other pane, oh yes, there is a copying going on, and this is the progress, and I'm almost done, and this is the data rate. Yes, it's still a rotating disk, and RM, that's going to be tricky. Yes, just to show you again. I start the copy, and now I get a progress bar. This also works, for example, with a download in Firefox. Progress will catch that and will show you the progress of that download. So everything that does a system basically does a system call to copy data over will show up in the progress. And I think that's awesome because usually you forget to add the PV command in the pipe so you can see the progress. You can start progress anytime and it will just pick up where the copy jobs are and what they do and where they are and how fast they are and all that stuff. So really, really, really useful tool. Which brings me to the end of my talk. Thank you very much. Are there any questions, tips, or more tools I haven't covered? The download, the slides with all the URLs and all the tools will be available on my website and also on the Balkan website. If you have feedback on Twitter or Mastodon, these are my addresses. And I think I have seen a few raised hands, so we have... Don't run through the camera. We have a few minutes for Q&A, I think. Thank you very much. Just 1 minute over time. I'm getting better. So, questions. You have the first question. Are you allowed to have the first question?
So you were talking about dig and how it's the thing that the cool kids use these days, but it's not because drill is the better one.
Which one?
Drill.
Drill?
Yes. It's a slightly modified dig with
Is it in the standard distributions, or do you have to install it?
Well, I had to install it, so probably not standardized.
Yeah.
Any more questions?
Drill. Thank you. Okay, that's going on my list. What?
It's a hint for another tool.
I didn't. Sorry. Parallel. Yes. Parallel. Yes. That's also a nice one. Yeah. Questions, tools. Come on. I need more content for the next version of this talk.
The idea from the more utils.
The idea?
Yes. Loads a directory into VI and you can edit names and shuffle.
And now do it again with the microphone in the hand.
So the idea from more utils.
Closer to the mouth.
And so with the idea you can edit directories with the usual search and replace commands from VI.
Oh, that's nice. I have to look into that. Thank you.
And tree is doing something similar like exa.
Yeah.
And it's more easily available.
Yeah.
Oh, also the fuzzy file finder integrates very well into Vim.
Yeah. I haven't shown it in Vim because then I always forget how to quit Vim, so we would still be here in 2 days. Well, otherwise, if you have any further tools or tips or want to discuss my decisions on what I picked, feel free to do so. I'm still here till Monday morning, so yeah.
So, but the fancy alternative to cat.
Buff?
But.
Okay.
So it has the syntax highlights.
Okay, thank you. Well, as the next speaker probably has to set up as well, I think we will cut it here. You're running through the camera again. Once more, I would thank you very, very much for showing up this early and have a great BalCon. Thank you very much.